Hey guys, welcome to another Profit Generator series, and today we're doing an interview with one of my long-term clients, Mick from Wills Stonemasonry. I'm just going to interview on everything on Profit First, and I really just want to understand how Profit First has helped you. And
if we're not growing, you're not growing.
how we're getting off our Profit Generator program, which you know all about. And you've gone one-to-one with me on the program, you and Jenna, and you said that you want to help me help other tradies.
Look, for me, it was actually, when you mentioned this, I jumped at the opportunity because it's been fantastic for us. It's been brilliant. I'm sure we'll get to the whys and hows, but if I can get someone else on board and have them experience what I have and the results, then I'm only too happy to do it.
Right, thank you. Tell me, for those guys who are at home, just to get a little bit of a feeling and get to know who you are.
Now, look, Mike, Wills Stonemasonry, stonemason for 30 years. We have had a family-run business probably for the last 20. And with that, you get the inherent problems of a stonemason who tries to be a business manager or a sole trader and then turning over into a company. We cater to all sectors of the stone game. Yep. From the quarrying side through to production, through to install. We've been lucky enough to be involved with heritage works, which we specialise in.
Yep, and look, it's one thing understanding your trade and all that, but then typically what I see all the time, and I think what I experienced before you guys came on with Profit First, is just the numbers, the financials, and looking at your zero. And typically what happens is that it's the tradie's wife, in this case Jenna, doing the accounts. That feeling of understanding, looking at that, can really escape a lot of business owners, just not tradies.
No, look, for us it was more, you try to tick all the boxes. I'm a good stonemason. And then...
I can back that up, he is. Like, I've seen some of his work, and you have done it.
But that carries across. So when you start up your own business, whether it be a sole trader or a company, you try to cover everything. You try to be everything in that institution, and it doesn't work. And I did that for a long time. We had a business model that I was doing the invoicing, doing all the paperwork, the safety side of things, the actual quoting, and the work itself. So you start from bad to worse from the get-go, and you try to do too much. And let's face it, I'm an accountant, I'm not a finance guy, I'm a stony.
But I think the problem is that with a lot of, and just not business owners, but just people in general, like, just so afraid to say no. And that was one of the things that we discovered when we went through our Profit First and going through the program of changing things is that there were jobs that you were doing where you just had to say no, and they were almost like love jobs that cost you money.
Because at the end of the day, it was my responsibility to make sure that we had X covered for the actual operational side of the business, but also for our personal needs, whether it be the mortgage or feeding the kids. You say yes because you don't want to say no. The minute you say no is a lost opportunity to make money. And I'd gotten into a bad habit, actually, where I was saying yes to things that really, they were poor choices. And it was poor choices because I wasn't getting the certain margins that I needed for my business to be profitable. So I found myself saying yes to a lot of things where I probably should have said no. And it was after a few discussions that we had initially that it made me have a look at myself.
Yeah, it's breaking down the mindset and the reasons why. And that's what we worked on. I remember we worked on in quite a few sessions.
Humbling.
It did take me a while, and then there was all of a sudden this like light bulb moment that came to you where it's like, now I get it. But there was, and we're not going to share, I don't want to share it, but there was something where there was a reason why you just couldn't say no. And it's good to be pleasing, but at the same time as well, it was costing your family. And I think once we got past that whole piece of, you know what, who's really important? Your wife, your 2 sons, and your family. But yeah, like that was definitely one problem, which then led to, I remember every time I'd do a Baz, Jenna doing the accounts in Xero, I'd ring Jenna or email the Baz off, and Jenna would be like, oh, we need another payment arrangement. Now, the thing is when you have a payment arrangement and you need to get another payment arrangement when you're already in a payment arrangement with the ATO, very hard to negotiate.
We were in a cycle. A bit of history, the work that I was doing would pay me in lump sum contractually every 4 to 6 weeks. So you'd get a big payment, and that big payment would come in and you think, I got some cash, and you'd spend it. And you wouldn't think that X amount had to go for the BAS, and X amount had to go here for operational costs, and X had to go for PAYG. And all of a sudden, we'd end up to a point where we were living each invoice being paid, but we weren't managing those payments well. We did overspend when we got the big money in, and then we suffered. So when it came time to paying, for example, the tax, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
We didn't have it in the system. We did have it, but we spent it on day-to-day things which we could justify at the time, which were needed to be spent on.
Yeah.
But we're always chasing to pay those core costs of the business.
Yeah, I remember we looked at really understanding, and the key with this was just not getting you on board, because Mick was feeling the pain particularly, right?
Stressful, yeah.
And just wanted that change and to do something. And Jenna didn't see it as much, and I would say that it was really important that we got Jenna involved in this whole journey of what we were doing, because we needed her on board, because Jenna is part of the solution as well.
You're my finance guy, okay? If you tell me this is a smarter way of doing it, I'm not going to argue, because you're not going to argue with me when it comes to Stone. Finance is your gig, Stone's my gig. And that's why I rely upon you quite heavily, all right? But with Jenna, again, she had bad habits, like myself, and we were very set in our ways. So we had that convincing to do. We had to approach it in a certain way, and then there was almost a trial period where she wasn't really on board, but we started doing it, and then she saw the results, and then she was more committed. And then once we got fully committed to the process, it was when we really started seeing those results come in. Yeah, look, I think getting the wife on board was massive, but as I said, we're only a small family business, but Jenna plays a major part in what I do.
But I would also say, Mick, I'd challenge that and say that you got to remember that small business is actually what makes up the majority.
I agree, but my problems that I had financially didn't seem like they were on a greater market scale. They felt very close to home, and the worries that I had about when we came to those leaner times, about making sure the mortgage payments were met, making sure there was food on the table, those sort of things, they hit home. They worry you. And so I was quite stressed. You know this. And so when you offered the solution with profit first, I was keen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good to hear. I want to talk about as well, one thing that we did tackle was we cut out a lot of expenses, and we looked at what we could refine and all that. But one area that I think a lot of people forget about is the invoicing side of things. I looked at the invoicing of how much you were charging out one of the labourers, one of the employees. And basically there was a little bit of margin on top, but not very much.
I think
What can you tell us about that?
I touched on it before when I said that I'm not a business. I run a business, but I don't have a business management course. I wing it, and I have done for a long time. And a lot of people out there do. There were faults that I made. So my on-cost of my employees, I wasn't charging enough for. So my business was suffering because I would cover them and cover their costs at a very simple level. But if anything went bad, something went awry, then it came out of my margin, and that hurt. Yeah, exactly. So not too many. But that's what I was trying to elaborate on previously, that I'm not a business manager, I'm a tradesman who is operating a business. And that's why we do rely upon people like yourself very heavily, because we're not in the know.
Yeah. There was at one stage there, you would come to me and go, oh, Jenna just booked another holiday. And Jenna working at Qantas back in the day and now Virgin, she gets cheap flights, right? But booked another holiday to Hawaii. And I've never seen a person so disappointed that he's going to Hawaii. And But also at the same time, you want to explain why you don't hate Hawaii, you obviously love Hawaii.
I love it. We've been
Just
20
that
times.
idea of getting on a plane and leaving work caused so much anxiety and stress. And before you give the answer, what would happen is Jenna would say, she'd call me, she goes, Mick is so stressed. He works so hard, which he does, and he needs a holiday. He just needs to chill. And you've probably got a good point, but this is where then you can lead and tell us about what was going on there.
Look, the holidays, they're fantastic. But what that means is a step away from financial return, a step away from clients being happy, a step away from a lot of things. We pride ourselves on putting our customers first. And if you, being small, I can't remove myself from a situation and have someone step in there, because I can't control the QA/QC side of things. So once I step away, I'm gone for that 2-3 week period. So that means everything ceases. With that, you lose money. I'm not charging, I'm not having staff out, I'm covering costs, I'm covering holidays. There's a deficit in my model that I have to bank for. And there's a certain amount of stress that comes with that. it takes over simply for the fact that when you're working week to week and clients are happy and they're paying the bills and everything's going well, again, if you're not running at a certain margin, there's only X amount coming in. Covers everything, but then the minute you step away for that period of time, it's a dent. It's a massive dent. For me, I didn't look forward to holidays, because people would question me not being there, and I'm well within my rights to have a holiday.
Yeah.
But my clients don't care about that.
Yeah.
So if I got back from holiday, so it wasn't just a 2-3 week period that I was away, it was probably a 5-6 week period because I'd have to work for several weeks to get money in again, depending on how I was invoicing. So yeah, it's a pretty big dent and it does cause a bit of stress.
But now, I guess what we do with the Profit First and the system we've got there, we're putting money aside so that whilst you're gone, it's still quite reliant on you doing stuff. You do have staff as well, but it means in that lull, you got cash there to continue paying all the things in life that you need.
So with Profit First, what that's enabled us to do is, obviously, we still shut down for the period. I'm employed because people pay for me to do a job and they don't want someone else doing it for me, if that makes sense. So we would still step away, but because of Profit First, we basically catered to the fact that we would have that lull and it wouldn't affect us as much. In fact, I say as much, it wouldn't affect us because we'd allowed for it.
Yeah.
Look, it took the stress away simply for the fact that I came back and there was still money in our operational side of things. I could still buy materials, still pay my staff. It was good.
There's one more thing I really want to get to. It's life with Profit First, and you've already shared some really good stuff.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
I want you to tell me about the stolen money story, because I think this is great.
It sucks actually because
I remember the phone call. He rang me up and he goes, because of you and your silly Profit First and doing this. Like, so he had money stolen out of his account, right?
And it was a fair whack of money.
Before Profit First, I had no money to steal.
So we had two occasions this happened, and one was $5,500 was taken. Another one, someone spent like $1,800. They're not massive amounts, but
they were thanking you did Profit First, didn't they?
Yeah. So before Profit First, that money wouldn't have been in the account because when it came in, we would spend it, and there wouldn't be that build up of. So yeah.
Now he did get the money back. Okay.
I did get the money back, mind you. It took him a long while. So yeah, banks do better, but it wouldn't have happened if the money hadn't been there.
Yeah. Look, a success story in implementing Profit First. And I think one thing I'd probably like to share with you guys as well, it doesn't need to be perfect, but just needs to be something to be able to control the cash that comes in. And even if I look at Mick and Jenna, they've worked on a lot of the reasons that were holding them back. And so I would call that their psychology, like their mindset and all that. And that's been an important piece because it meant that they could move forward. And for them, and particularly your two sons, Harley and Mason, it means that they're going to have a lot more opportunities that you can give them as well.
The reason I like Profit First is it's not just a financial thing. It does make you step back and look at how you're doing things. It makes you question how you're doing things. It provides the answers on how to put your best foot forward. But I think in its core approach, how simple it is, why it works. I bash rocks for a living, but we implemented this extremely well and extremely easily. And to get such a great result. And look, obviously there was the first few months setting up, and it hurt a little bit because we had to start practices that we weren't used to, we didn't like. But the fact is that we were in the position we're in because we were doing the things that we were doing, the bad habits. After that initial couple of months, there was no looking back. And again, for a guy who bashes rocks for a living, I'm very thankful both to yourself and Profit First simply for the fact that it's given me room to breathe. Financially, we're not week to week or invoice to invoice, or it's given us a freedom that we now have more options financially for investment. But yeah, I'm extremely thankful, and I can only suggest that other people give it a go.
You can head to our website and it's got the link there for the 6-week Profit Generator course, program rather. And I guess, I know you're going to say yes, but you'd recommend that for
look, it's the best thing we've done. And it changes, I can't explain how much it changes things for the better.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is actually recognising the problem and then taking the action. The action part's actually the hardest. Doing it gets easier. It's just like a muscle. When you go to the gym, every rep you do over time gets so much easier, and it's the same, it got easier. I'm going to leave on that note. Thanks so much, mate, for this. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime.
Guys, get on Profit First. I'm going to head off and...
If you need any stonemasonry, let me know.
Yeah, we'll put his details. In fact, we'll share a few images of some of the work that Mick's done, because he does some fantastic work and with some really big players, and yeah, it's amazing. All right, thanks guys for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you at our next podcast.